So I think I know most of you. My name is Patrick Schmidt. I'm the faculty advisor for the Clarion, and I teach a bunch of journalism classes, and it was a whole long road to get to the point where we have what we have available through the Clarion Digital Archive. And that's what I'm really, really excited to talk about today. So I do have a little slideshow for you. It's mostly just to kind of help keep us on track and keep us talking about some of the interesting things about the archive that I think are worth your attention and worth your sort of ability to make it your own and do what you want with it and be able to take it and use it for the projects that you have in your mind. So the first thing I need to tell you about the digital archive is just kind of where we're going today. So I want to share a little bit of background. How did we get here? Its use as a research tool, and hopefully as an interdisciplinary academic tool. That's the thing for me as a professor that gets me fired up, is thinking about all the different ways that we could share this research and share this resource. I made a convenient link for you, tiny.cc/Clarion. The problem is right now, if you go to the digital archive where it's housed right now, they had a server crash over the weekend, over Thanksgiving weekend. And so you can't get to any of our archive right now online. Fortunately, your boy planned ahead. It doesn't ruin my presentation, but it might ruin your ability to do the research you want to do for the next 3 days. I was in touch with somebody where our digital archive is housed, and I can show you what it kind of looks like. The digital archive looks like this, and there's Citrus College Clarion. You can see I was searching Center for Innovation. I was looking for all kinds of cool stuff. But if you go here right now, all the text is there, but normally we have PDFs as well that you can see, and all those images are gone right now. But don't let that worry you. I was in touch with the people at UC Riverside today, and they said, server crashed, we will be back. So if you go to this link and you're like, Patrick, where are all these PDFs you said were there? They say they're going to be there by Friday. So tiny.cc/Clarion will take you there. You can also access this through the library. The library's digital resources has a link to this as well. So the Clarion, I do want to talk a little bit about the Clarion and kind of like who we are and what we do, in case you weren't aware. The Clarion's been around for, oh my goodness, this is going to be mind-blowing for a couple of you, 74 years. We've been doing student journalism at Citrus College for 74 years, which is pretty cool. It started as the citric acid, went through a couple other name changes, became the Collegian Owl, and then was changed to the Clarion in 1964. That's where our digital archive begins. We actually have the first edition of the Clarion and the last edition of the Collegian Owl from the fall of 1964. And of course, we've grown a lot over the last, 50 years. So we have our print product. We also have a website now that we've been operating for close to 20 years now. And we also have social media. We have our Instagram, we have our Twitter, we have our Facebook. If you're not following us on those platforms, please, please, please do. It's my little promo for my students and the work that they do. So the California Digital Newspaper Collection, what is it? I just kind of showed you a little taste of the site itself. And the California Digital Newspaper Collection is exactly what it sounds like. It's a collection of scanned newspapers from across the state. It's housed at UC Riverside. UC Riverside has this wonderful Center for Bibliographical Studies and Research, which I wasn't aware of before I really started digging into this kind of stuff, and I saw that this was a possibility, and I was like, oh, wow, this is pretty cool. And so it's not just the Clarion that's housed here. There are probably, I don't know, close to 100 newspapers that are housed here. A lot of them are student newspapers. Let's say there's probably 7 or 8 other community colleges that have their papers housed here. A lot of smaller papers that maybe you didn't know existed also have their digital archives on this site. It's a really, really neat resource beyond what the Clarion has there. So I encourage you to check it out. And it's all free, and there's no money involved. It's wide open to the public. Pretty cool resource. And I'm glad that we're a part of it. And I do want to note that there's this acknowledgements bit here at the bottom, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that this was not just Patrick. This was maybe Patrick's baby, Patrick's idea, but there were a whole bunch of people involved in getting it to this point. And certainly, I mean, I co-wrote a application with Sarah, who's here today from the library, and Sarah Bosler and I submitted that, and then Chris Garcia at the foundation, in her wisdom, helped us secure financing, and then we got more help, financial help from the Alumni and Friends Association, and then we had even more administrative support from the library staff. I mean, there's a lot of fingerprints on this. There really are. And from where we were 2 years ago today, which was, we had just received the go to, like, yes, this is a thing, let's make it happen, to where we are now 2 years later with 50 plus years of this archive available. It's, in academic terms, it moved really fast, right? It moved really fast for an academic project, which is thanks to all of those people, all those groups that helped make it happen. And because of that, we get to now do all these things. And the first thing, the first little tool, and I was so excited to show you this to you live, but now we can't, is the browse function. And the browse function is probably the most powerful thing about this archive. And the browse function, I should say second most powerful thing. Second most powerful thing about this archive is the browse function. We'll get to the most powerful thing in a second, but the second most powerful thing is the browse function. I don't know if this is going to make you feel young or old, but I went to the Clarion, and there's just a browse tab in the upper left. And I went to the paper that was closest to my birth date. And you can see there, October 8th, 1981. Okay. And I was like, what was happening in the world of Citrus College when I was born? And so this really, it's incredibly powerful just to kind of browse through things. The act of serendipity is one I believe very strongly in, where you're just kind of wandering through, you're not quite sure what you're going to find, and you find something. That's sort of what the browse function is. You're just looking around. You don't know what you're going to find. It's just like reading the paper in real life. You never know what story is going to pique your interest. And that's what the browse function can do for you. So it's very, very cool. Right? The next step in that, oh, by the way, I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat here too. So if you have any questions, oh, my goodness, please interrupt me. Don't feel bad about it at all. Interrupt me if you have questions, thoughts, concerns, or throw something in the chat and I'll get to it when I can. So browse is great, right? The other thing that's really, really cool was the OCR that we ran over this text. So OCR, I forget what it stands for, optical something recognition. The C doesn't stand for something, but optical something recognition. Anyway, what it does is we put character. Thank you, Sarah. So we ran some software over the top of every single page. By the way, thousands and thousands and thousands of pages. And I say we, like Patrick actually hit the go button. No, we paid people to do this for us, to scan every single page with this OCR software and turn it into text. So when you click on a story, it pops up with the text from that story. And so you click on this negotiations over binding arbitration, you click on that story, it highlights the story, and then the text is available on the left-hand side. Very, very powerful, very cool. And then the other thing you can do with it is you can use the clipping tool that's part of the website to save that article. So you can create this sort of your own sort of curated clippings of the things that you find along the way. And if you're doing research, and if you've ever done real in-depth, like deep research, you know how valuable of a tool that can become. And it's not just a collection of screenshots that you've got on your own computer. These are actually clips that are saved on their website, the UCR website, and you can refer back to them. And that's, for doing in-depth research, that can be incredibly powerful because you're not decoupling it from where it is online. Right? You can go back and it's like, oh, what day did that run? What context was it around? No, you can actually go to the clip and it'll take you right to the full page. Yeah. So before I move on, any questions about any of this? I know I've thrown a lot at you, questions. All right, seeing none, hearing none.
I have a quick question.
Yes. Sarah, go ahead.
So if this is how do you, if you want to save like a PDF of it or something, is that something that you're going to get to, or?
I can go back and actually show a little bit of this. So up here in the top left, you can see issue PDF. Mm-hmm. You can save the entire PDF of the entire issue if you wanted to. So to do that, you do need an account, and it's just your email address and a password. It took me, I have fast fingers. It took me 10 seconds to sign up for an account. So once you do that, you can download the entire PDF, the entire issue, and you can also download your clips. So yeah, it's, the download functions are very, very helpful. And then, but the clippings kind of stay with you and stay with your account too. So, and again, the other, if you're deep into like bibliographies, having all this information available to you, like the volume number, the issue number, the page number, the date, could be really handy. Even if you're not into it, if you're just kind of into making your students be into it, that can also be very helpful. So let's talk about, okay, we talked about the second most powerful tool, which is browse. Most powerful tool right here, search. This is what separates somebody sitting at a scanner from what we did. Right? Again, I say we, the team effort here of the people who help put it together, the people who help finance it, et cetera, et cetera. Making this entire archive of 50 plus years of newspapers, turning it into a digital database is transformative. I don't use that word lightly. It transforms what's possible with these archives. Before it was, oh, maybe if you knew what page it was on, maybe we could find it by, maybe we'll just kind of flip through and hope we see a headline. Now we can do keyword search for everything that's been in the Clarion for more than 50 years. It's transformative. And that's what gets, you sort of see me kind of like doing a little happy dance here. Like that's what gets me going about this is not just taking the archives and making them digital, it's taking the archives and turning them into something new. And that's what gets me fired up. So search, the most powerful tool. And I decided who's been at Citrus? Who would I want to research? Who has a lot of stuff written about him? Of course, the first name that came to my mind was Dale Solwak. Okay. And so I threw his name in the search. He's been mentioned 251 times in the Clarion in the last, believe it or not, he wasn't here before 64. So I think this covers every mention in the Clarion. Okay. And so we could start there, but we could also throw in Dale Solwak English or Dale Solwak Magic or Dale Solwak North Korea and find all the stories that have been written about him and all of his very, very cool associations, right? So that's definitely a place you could go. So you could start using this to find out about a person's history, or what they've done at Citrus, or all that kind of stuff. Right? There's also, it works just like Google. So you could see here the in quotes gets you that exact phrase. If you're not sure what you're looking for, like I just threw in here, union negotiations faculty, as a faculty member, that means something to me. And we have 44 stories about that have those 3 words in them. So if I wanted to do a little bit of history about union negotiations faculty, by the way, completely unplanned, is the fact that we as faculty got notified of what our potential contract's going to be. We got that last night. I planned this like a month ago, so completely accidental. But if I wanted to do that research, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, hint, hint, here we go. Here's all the stories that have ever been in the Clarion that include these 3 words. And then for me, I would just like to throw in names. Like, one of my favorite comedians of all time is George Carlin. And I didn't know he played at Citrus. He did. 1974, George Carlin had a show at Citrus College. I had no idea. And that's so cool. And that like changes my whole view of walking into the student center now. I'm like, oh man, this is where George Carlin once performed. Right? It changes everything, which is pretty cool. And sometimes just throwing random stuff into search, things that you may not anticipate will pop up. It was just so cool. Just so cool to see him pop up. And then what was really fun was to see all the letters afterward, all the letters to the editor that came in after his performance that were so upset. That was fun too. So, other things, I mean, so search and browse are both there, and when you combine them, you can turn those into research, and I think that's important. I think it's important to talk about kind of the research that's possible here. And what could we search? And I just started coming up with this list, and I know it's incomplete. So I was talking about, if you want to give the Dale Solwak Award to Dale Solwak, what are his career highlights? What has he done? What awards has he won? When somebody retires and we want to recognize them, it's sometimes tough to, let's put it this way, it's a heck of a lot easier to plan a surprise party for someone that lists all their awards, because now you don't have to go and ask them, or trying to be sneaky about it. You can just look in the Clarion. So it said union negotiations. For my students, looking into the history of the Board of Trustees, or into the history of ASCC, or the history of Faculty Senate, like being able to dig up background on important issues to our community. One of the phrases that I encourage my students at the Clarion to search a lot is Measure G. Right? What's the history of Measure G and where has it gone, especially with Measure Y just passing? It would be kind of important to know how we got here and read those stories. Right? The Child Care Center, which I know has been, I hear more about that than maybe any other building on campus. Right? Other infrastructure, and goodness knows there's a heck of a lot more that we could research as well. So I put history of an event, like the background of the Cosmetology Hair Show, or the Saluting Our Veterans event, which we just had, or graduation, or accreditation, or any other number of events. And then community history. I mean, we're definitely focused on Citrus College as a news organization, but if you go back, we've done stories about our communities, about the Glendora police chief, or Azusa Golden Days, or any other number of things that have been happening in our communities. And there's a whole bunch of opportunities for just getting more and going deeper and learning more about that kind of stuff. And for whatever reason, maybe it's just your own personal interest. Maybe it's you're interested in going a little bit deeper into history. Maybe you want to do something with your students about what we've done as a college. And I'm going to throw this out. I'm hoping you have some ideas, what ideas you might have about things we could research.
In the library, we were kind of kicking around some ideas of things that we could kind of dig around and find things. like when buildings were built, like kind of with some of the measures, but like pictures of, you know, the planetarium that we used to have, that kind of thing. But also when sports events or things that happened in the community, or, you know, music genres, or, you know, famous people, or what was happening at Citrus College when a really important historical event happened, like 9/11. Like, what does the 9/11 issue reflect about, kind of capture about the culture of the campus?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it just sparked one of the things. Did you know, I didn't know this, did you know Citrus College used to be the place where the Big Ten team practiced before the Rose Bowl? So the Big Ten team would come down to California, they would practice at Citrus College before the Rose Bowl. And so, but every year the coverage is a little bit different. So you were talking about, what's the community reaction like? What is the importance of, you know, this in a community? And I'm thinking about things like, you know, there's also, I'm not always proud of the things I find. And one of the things that I found that I didn't put in this presentation, but I want to talk about, was the day that the Black Student Union stormed the offices of the Clarion. I'm going to let you find that story, but it's out there, it exists. And so talking about race and how we handle equity, and how we handle, you know, gosh, you know, the diversity, equity, all of those words that are more than words. How are people reflected in the media, and the Clarion being a part of that? How are our Black students reflected? How are our Hispanic students represented? How, like, all of those things, you know, the Clarion can be a lens for that. And we can talk about the ways that we've failed institutionally or societally, or the ways that we maybe were ahead of the curve by looking at the work that we've done. So, yeah. Yes. All right, sorry, I'm looking at Nikki's thing here. Fictional tale about the WBU students. Yeah. There's some things that, like, say, in the Clarion that I'm not proud of, either because of they're part of our history, and that history's not always good, not always stuff that we want to remember, but some things you have to remember, right? Yeah. And, you know, again, sometimes we're ahead of the curve. Sometimes if you look particularly, I think I was kind of comparing just mentally my own college experience as a college student who, I went to the University of Wyoming, and I went to the University of Wyoming in the immediate aftermath of Matthew Shepard. So the way that LGBTQ students are treated in their student media is particularly important. And so understanding that, when I looked at Citrus at about that time, Citrus was way ahead of what we were doing in Wyoming. And I think that's an interesting thing to acknowledge as well. So there's all kinds of things. I don't know. I sort of jumped on a little bit of a just a rant there. Sorry. Other thoughts before we jump into other things? Okay, cool. So the 5 benefits, I found this from a company. This isn't the company we use to do our archiving, but it's another company, and they had this thing on their website that I stole that I thought was really valuable. The 5 benefits of a database like this, right? First, it saves time. Second, it improves your research accuracy. Third, protects our original copies. You know, if people don't have to be digging through the original copies anymore, they can go online, and that helps protect our original copies. Saves money on physical replacements, and then creates this valuable community asset. The 5th one to me is the most important, right? The 5th one to me is the most important. I want this to be a community asset, a campus asset, a community asset, a place that people can go to get the information that they need to be able to better understand their world, their community, their campus, their college, the people they're with every single day. And I don't know, I mean, as somebody who teaches journalism, that's the hope. The hope is that people use what you produce to better understand their world. And I think doing that issue by issue is certainly important to us, but doing that, year by year, decade by decade is also critically important. So some quick tangible benefits that I came up with, the ability to access worldwide versus only accessing in VA 236 or only accessing in a library. The fact that I can do this from home just is so cool. It's so cool. I'm doing some research on another newspaper database for another project I have going. And the fact that I can do that here in California from the comfort of my cat's office is pretty cool. And it's a game changer. It's absolute game changer for research. The keyword search, it's huge. I've talked about that. And then no copying and no printing. We're saving paper, we're saving trees, which is, again, a nice benefit. And then I got a little some esoteric benefits, preserving and protecting that local history, putting those events in perspective. It's better to understand Black Lives Matter if you can look at how Black lives have been represented in the media, right? It's easier to understand a call for equality when you can see the inequality in the past. And today's news is tomorrow's history. Sometimes you will hear that news is the first rough draft of history. And I firmly believe that's true. Hopefully this makes our campus stronger and hopefully makes our community stronger to understand who they are and where they're from and hopefully where they're going. And it's the work of thousands of students. I mean, I just did a little rough math in my head. It's easily 4 digits, the number of students, who have contributed to the Clarion over time. And I think it'd be really cool, like if you're an art instructor or art professor, wouldn't it be nice to be able to display 50 years of student artwork? If you're a dance instructor, wouldn't it be nice to have videos of 50 years of student dance performances? Right? But in journalism, we now have that. We have 50 plus years of student work on display. And it'll be there as long as the servers can hold out, they'll be there. And I think that's a really unique opportunity that we had in journalism, and I'm glad we took advantage of it. So,
I have one quick comment.
Yes, please.
In the library, one really big value, I think, to this is that we would get a lot of requests from community members just asking for information about a family member or a friend, or they were doing research on school mascots nationwide and where did you get your name, and all kinds of interesting questions. And a lot of times we would have to flip through physically to just find something. So it makes, like you said, a lot quicker. But I think this is a really valuable resource for the community, because now anybody can research from home, about their family member or themselves, and kind of use this resource as a nice kind of family heirloom tool in a way to make a digital collection of stories.
And one of the things I noticed in some of the older papers, they were running things like dean's lists, and as Citrus got bigger and bigger, those things started to disappear just because they became unwieldy. But I'm sort of thinking, what? More names in the paper. And we've started doing that over the last couple of years, starting running graduation lists and things like that, where in 10, 15, 20 years, there's my name. And again, it's about that community connection. It really is. So I have just a couple, oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, this is Chris. I'm sorry, I'm on a computer that doesn't have a camera right now, but it's good to see everybody. And I should start using my camera because you guys might think it's good to see me too, but I really miss everybody. I'm seeing faces I haven't seen in a long time. I just wanted to mention the historical record that this project has enabled people like us who are sort of newer to citrus to kind of dive into, whoever was sharing about the football games, practicing or doing their prep work at Citrus College. I actually hear those stories from our alumni and our Citrus Union High School alumni. But as we know, that generation of people is not going to always be around to tell the story. So the timing of this has been so perfect. Patrick and Sarah, you guys did a great job with it. And I see Elizabeth on there. I know Elizabeth helped, and I don't want to say names too much more because I don't know everybody that was involved. But when the foundation didn't have funding for it, the second year, we took this project to the Alumni Association. And this is like their lives, you know, like a lot of them came to school in the 60s. They stayed on campus in the 70s. I mean, I'll toss out names like Joyce Dill and Tom Gerfen. And those are just, this is just such a special project. I personally just really love it. And I could not have really imagined myself saying that, but kudos to you guys, really. This is really very life-changing for our college, and it keeps history alive like maybe nothing else at the college really does. So good job, you guys.
Sorry, it was not possible without the funding that was provided. So thank you.
Well, we should mention that though. It was not too expensive. I saw Brian wrote in the chat box, it would be good to have other places do it. I think we did it for less than 10,000, really closer to 5,000, if I remember correctly. Is that's pretty modest for what this is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what it might take is another situation where we can maybe apply for some grant funding from somewhere and make it happen. And you know what, Brian, send me an email. I have an idea. We might be able to work something out, but yeah, I might be thinking outside the box. I'm completely, I might be completely out of line, but let's trade some emails. Yeah. And then Diane, for the HA, I have a tip for the HA for its 50th. I remember when it opened, I was scrolling through some of the pages. We did a big photo of the HA on the front page. I say we like I was actually alive. All right. But the Clarion did a nice big photo of the HA when it opened. It's like HA opens. It was a very big, it was like the whole front page when the HA opened. Oh, good. So yes, absolutely. It's there. Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah. So one of the things I stumbled across was this right here. For those of you who know Ray Bradbury, pretty famous author. He came to Citrus this is 1971. He came to Citrus and he wrote a poem to run in the Clarion. And as far as I can tell, it's never been reprinted anywhere else. So we have an original poem from Ray Bradbury just sitting in our archive. And I had no idea. And I didn't even search. This was just browse. I'm like, oh, oh, cool. And I was just looking for pretty pictures. And then this popped up and I'm like, okay, who's this dude? Oh, Ray Bradbury. Oh, right. Very cool original poem from him. These kinds of things, I can't even imagine how many other things like this are just hanging out, waiting to be found again. And that's one of my hopes, is that when you find this cool stuff, like, give me a heads up, let me know, shoot me an email, tag me on Twitter, passenger pigeon, I don't care, right? Let me know when you find this cool stuff, because it really is, it's part of our history, and I think it's valuable. It's valuable to be able to have, it's valuable to be able to share. I told you I was going to talk about interdisciplinary options. This is for my fellow faculty. I came up with this very quick list of areas on campus where I think there can be some interdisciplinary collaboration. History, obviously, the first rough draft of history, here it is. Political science, English, journalism, anthropology, kinesiology, photography, sociology, philosophy, like all those things just kind of came off the top of my head. And you can intersect those however you want to. This is not just journalism and, it could be history and sociology, or it could be English and anthropology. I mean, there's so many potential crossover interdisciplinary collaborations that are out there that, I mean, a few that I've thought of, you know, just haven't even scratched the surface. And I'm thinking of it as from the journalism and mass communication end, but there are just so many opportunities to be able to do cool stuff with this that I really haven't even sat down yet to really think it out, because it's so, the possibilities are so limitless. To sit down and actually focus and put some things on paper, I'm hoping that's what winter semester is going to be. Maybe eventually a sabbatical. I could just use this to come up with, take an entire semester and come up with, here's the ways to introduce this interdisciplinarily. But I don't know that I would get a sabbatical, and I don't know if they'd let me leave the Clarion. So I put and more on here. I mean, any ideas? Anybody have any projects that jump immediately to mind that they want to get off their chest? All right, seeing none, hearing none. If you do have them, hit me up. And there's also a lot of like really cool things popping up in the chat right here. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, women in media, hairstyling. Oh my gosh, so many cool things, like so many opportunities, y'all. It's so cool. And that is the official end, but the more that y'all want to talk about this, I am so open to questions, thoughts, concerns, talking about potential collaborations, potential things that I could do for you, potential things that you know, the Clarion can help bring to fruition. I'm here for it. So Dale, to answer your question, getting this message out. We did a story in the Clarion last week, a couple weeks ago, that ran about it, but that's a starting point. We've also had it shared by the external relations team on social media, and that's been a huge help. I know a lot of people got their eyes to it because, you know, the Citrus College Twitter posted it, and Instagram, and so on and so forth. And they've been doing some Throwback Thursday stuff, which has been pretty cool as well. So hopefully that continues, and fingers crossed. And of course, the other way to get it into students' hands is to bring it into your classrooms. I think that's the #1 best way. Right? So yeah, and link, sorry, I can go back to that one right there. Yeah, tiny.cc/Clarion. I think I'm going to get that tattooed on my forehead in reverse, so when I look in the mirror, I can read it. All right. Actually, maybe this is too much, but I don't have a tattoo yet, but my first tattoo is going to be the First Amendment. This will be my second tattoo. I think that's fair. Well, cool. Well, I mean, thank you all for being here. If you want to continue the conversation, let's please do that. I hope today is not the end. I hope today's the beginning. I hope 2 months ago was the beginning. I hope this is an accelerant, and I hope we can continue to have these conversations and continue to come up with cool interdisciplinary ideas. And I'm probably going to be reaching out to a few of you over winter break saying, hey, I've got this idea for an interdisciplinary collaboration. Are you down? All right, so let's make that happen. Would love to make those things go. And again, thank you to everyone who made this happen. I'm just here presenting it today, but this is the work of tons of people at Citrus and tons of financial support at Citrus. So not to be unrecognized. Thank you.
Thank
Cool.
you,
Well,
Patrick.
thank you. And I'll also have the recording as well. So anyone, if you want to share this with anyone, I will have the recording and I'll have the link hopefully within the next couple hours to share with you as well. So, all right. Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate you being here. Thank you for taking the time. And yeah, if you have any questions, ask me or ask Sarah and Sandy and Tina and all the folks in the library there. They would be glad to point you in a direction as well. All right. Well, cool. Thank you again, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Have a good afternoon.